Wow. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, fellow members and our special guests. For a team to be effective, its leader must be able to comfortably offer feedback to team members. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yes, right? Feedback basically is information concerning the team's behavior, attitude, relationships, and progress, towards achieving objectives. Leaders that skillfully provide feedback help the team achieve its goals, build the team's confidence and pride, and of course help the team to succeed. In the next few minutes, you're going to get 4 proven action steps which will help you to prepare and give appropriate feedback. But first, I'd like to share with you some inspiring facts about feedback, and if you could help me to fill in the blanks. The first one is, what gets measured gets money. Managed. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm looking for a particular answer, but okay. What gets measured gets
Done. Quantify.
Counted.
Quantify.
okay. My goodness, I didn't know there was various answers. I was expecting it.
Yeah. What?
I'm sure when somebody here will say what I'm expecting.
You say it first.
Okay. What gets measured gets better.
Yeah.
What gets measured gets better. However, your responses, of course, are just as valid, to be fair. Just that I will just be, regimented there. Now, the next one is, feedback is the food of
Love.
love. Okay. That's so wrong, guys. I love. Why not? Amor.
Improving.
Right.
Improving.
Improve, okay. Somebody said what I wanted to hear. Yeah?
Champions.
Champions, that's right. Feedback is the food of champions. And I came across that line from becoming a member of this club. Actually, it was our former club president, Wale, used to mention that line about feedback is the food of champions. Feedback offers ideas, right? Feedback offers ideas. Ideas could be turned into what?
Reality.
Yes.
Action.
That's right, okay? Action. That's what I'm looking for. Action. Ideas could be turned into action. You see, many organizations refer to that transformational concept from ideas to action. They refer to that concept as listening into action. Listening into action. Now, let's move on to the 4 action steps, which I just mentioned. The 4 action steps in giving effective feedback. Now, the first one is set clear and concise objectives. Set clear and concise objectives. You see, when the team objectives are clearly communicated, team members will find it easier to perform. By establishing clear goals, objectives, and performance expectations, you sort of have a standard with which to measure team members' performance and to base your feedback. Very important. The second action step is observe team members' performance. Observe team members' performance. Carefully note what a team member is doing well, and of course what does not meet expectations. The next one is provide immediate feedback. Provide immediate feedback. Why? Why do that? Well, because the passage of time tends to, diminish the effectiveness of your praise or criticism, as the case may be. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's very important to just give the feedback at that moment, timely feedback. And if you delay the feedback, the person could be wondering, what does this person think about me, and they could then be, having doubt and insecurities. So very important to give that timely feedback. Now the fourth and final action step is recognize positive performance. Recognize positive performance. It's also important to recognize everyone who performs to expectations, but you want to avoid focusing only on outstanding or poor performance, I should say. Basically, you want to have a broad approach, not just focusing on only those who are doing well. You also want to focus on those who are not doing well. So you have a broad approach towards appraising your team or team members. Now let's move on to this question: How do you give constructive feedback? How do you give constructive feedback? If you allow an ineffective team member, to continue in his or her behavior, you as the team leader or the team member, you may be unintentionally preventing your team from achieving its goals. And it could affect the morale and motivation of those team members who are performing. Now, to give more constructive feedback, it is important to do a couple of things, which I've outlined here, just a few things. The first one is be specific. Be specific. Now, if you're saying, good job, keep up the good work. Be like, what good work? There's so many examples of good work. You want to be specific so that specificity it amplifies that particular thing that you're happy seeing. If it's printing something from the computer from the system that the person does well, then the person tends to do that particular task properly. So be specific when you're giving feedback. If it's negative feedback, the same thing likewise. If it's negative feedback, be specific so that the person is able to identify it and then make corrections immediately. The next is to speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. You shouldn't say, this is what people are saying. People are saying this, I heard this about you. You also want to speak. What have you gleaned? What is your opinion about that person? What is your developed opinion about that person? You want to speak for yourself. The next one is be sincere. You want to be sincere. How does that person's actions, how does it make you feel? Emphasize how actions affect the team. Well, it could be positive or negative actions, but emphasize it nonetheless. Let the team member know how they are coming across, how they are actually affecting the team, so that maybe they could then see that, okay, maybe people are experiencing me in a negative way in this life, maybe I should improve my behavior. So you want to explain how they are coming across to the team, to the rest of the team. The next one is to use the I technique, the I, like I or you. Ideally, you don't want to say, you did this, or otherwise the person could, just go back into their shell like a snail, like become defensive, and that's not what you want. You want to say, I think this, use the I. Focus on your own perceptions and sensibilities. And then you want to end on a positive note. The sandwich method of giving feedback, the positive, okay, what could be better, and then you want to end on a positive note so that you want to leave a kind of a sweet taste in the person's mouth, so to speak. Recognize improvement. Recognize improvement. You see, when you recognize improvement, it's very important because we all like to be recognized, isn't it? We all like to be recognized. Remember, during my introduction, I talked about, Madam Toastmaster talked about how, I was recognized by the Mayor of London for my youth voluntary work. Now, I wasn't necessarily doing it for that reason, but it's nice to be recognized, isn't it? It just makes you want to continue doing that particular thing. So always recognize the improvement of your team members. Very important. It's also very important to always address issues in private. Always address issues in private. Otherwise, there's a real risk, isn't there, of humiliating or embarrassing that person. And of course, you make other people around feel uncomfortable. You don't want that. That's going to be an unintended consequence. So you don't want to take that risk. You want to address issues in private. So far, we've learned that feedback also involves recognizing those who perform well, recognize team members for their accomplishments, to encourage continuous improvement. There's this culture now that we hear about sustainable continuous improvement. Positive feedback can motivate people to perform even better. And when you offer positive feedback, remember to be specific. State what the team member did. State what that team member actually did to deserve praise. Like I said, be specific. Also, you express your appreciation. Express your appreciation. Explain why the team member's effort was effective. Explain why the effort was effective and how it contributed to the success of the team. How did that team member's effort actually contribute to the general productivity of the team? You encourage that team member to do more of the same. Now, when you provide meaningful feedback, you promote excellence and you encourage others to improve their performance. Of course, you could use your Toastmasters evaluation skills when providing feedback. Why not? The reason we come to Toastmasters is so that we apply our skills anywhere, in any context in our lives, isn't it? A team could achieve and even exceed its goals when evaluation skills lead the team to its maximum potential. So now, it's time to get some feedback from you in the form of questions, please. Any questions? Any questions from you? Yeah?
How do you deal with someone who doesn't take recommendations very well?
That's an interesting question. You have to exercise patience immediately, right there. You need to exercise patience because that could be quite testing. Because if somebody is not taking the feedback that you think is very important for them to take, they're not taking it. If one is not careful, you could get frustrated, and then you could move from being professional to personal. You don't want that. So you want to exercise patience, and you want to try to examine where that person is coming from, where that person is at. That person could have issues that are affecting their behavior. Why are they not being receptive to the feedback? So you want to exercise patience, have a couple of meetings with that person, and possibly, maybe it's how you might be coming across. You may not know. So it might be necessary for a colleague of yours to give feedback as well. So that might help. Any other questions? Okay, in the absence of further questions, I just want to recap the main points that I would like you to glean from this presentation and to take home with you. Like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the presentation, what gets measured gets better. Feedback is the food of champions. And I also said that feedback offers ideas. And ideas could be turned, it could be transformed into action. And on that note, I end my presentation. Madam Toastmaster.